Recording in progress.
Are you awake now? Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg. Here we gather in a spirit of freedom and friendship. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on land originally part of the Monacan Nation. My name is Gary Duvall. I've been a member of First Unitarian for 51 years, and I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee. If you're with us for the first time, we are glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this church community we love so much. We would be happy to tell you more about our community during virtual social time or coffee hour in Drysdale Hall. If you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, please fill out the newcomer connection form found on our website, ulynchburg.org, under visitors if you're on Zoom, or one of the yellow cards and the seat pockets in the chair in front of you if you're in person. You may also wish to join our Facebook group. For those of you on Zoom, please note that the order of service is in the chat to the right of your screen if you're using a PC. It's a little more complicated if you're on a phone. As we begin our service, let us acknowledge each other as those of us in the sanctuary wave to those joining us via Zoom, and Zoom participants wave to those of us in the sanctuary. Okay. As we enter our time of worship, we light the flame of our chalice, sharing these words together. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life. Our opening words this morning were written by Katie Romano Griffin. Against gray leaves, a chalice of green stems, and a flame of red leaves, come. Let us enter this space of hope and community. Come. Let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, passion, and compassion. Come. Let us enter this space with the stories of our ancestors, for their strength and wisdom beats in our hearts. Come into this space. Present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space, mindful that together we're building a future for other generations. Come into this space and let us worship. Our opening hymn is number 113, Where is Our Holy Church?
I'd like to invite all the young ones and young at heart to join me down front for a story. That's nice. That's awesome. You guys did great teamwork there. So this one, are you guys going to be able to see? Okay. So this month we've been talking about heritage and the connections that we have through our roots to the people around us and the people who came before us. And so today we're going to read a story called The Circles All Around Us.
So I can't be here the next time because I'm going to a flight on Arizona.
That sounds really amazing. I hope you have a great time.
And with my friends.
Nice. We begin. Yes. How's this? All right. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. A safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you see what all can happen in a circle full of care. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And see, they have a photo album of all their different family members and all the people they're letting into their little bit bigger circle. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? So look, they're making the circle a little bit bigger to let in their friends. So you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been, and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in.
And my baby brother.
Is that your baby brother? Your baby brother has a friend back there. We have 2 babies today. And the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. Yet there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw a bigger circle for them too. Look, he's having to stretch to keep himself in the circles and draw it even bigger. Circles as big as he is now. It doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more we share. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. And look, do you see what they're passing out? They're calling them friendship donuts. I would like a circle where there were friendship donuts. That sounds pretty wonderful.
Sadly, I can't.
No donuts for you?
No, I made a deal with my dad that I won't have any chicken for Halloween.
Okay. Do you get to have candy at Halloween then? That might be a pretty good deal. As time passes, our eyes open. We see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So let us create bigger circles all around for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. As our circles grow and we watch them wonder-eyed, remember the first circle started with just the love that you hold inside. That was a pretty good story about the circles all around us, wasn't it? So today we're going to go upstairs and we're going to be learning some more about our circles, and we're going to be learning about our roots and where they came from. And the 5th through 8th graders are already upstairs working on building their better world, and they're learning about the different environments a world can be in today. So,
I can see myself in that.
do you see yourself there? It's because Miss Kim is showing on the camera so everyone can see. Kaimana, do you want to carry our chalice upstairs today? Okay.
I can't.
Yeah, your hands are full. All right, let's go upstairs.
We continue our tradition of providing support to community organizations whose missions are congruent with our principles, dedicating a portion of our offering in support. Cash contributions in the offering basket, as well as checks to the organization or to the church directing the contribution to the organization in the memo line, will go to the organization. This month, the community organization that will benefit from Generosity Sunday is the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank Network, and I think the name keeps getting longer and longer. James Quaid, who's the operations manager over the southern region, will speak on their behalf. James?
I'll take this off so that I'm not sounding muffled. Well, thank you guys for having me. And I am the operations manager of the southern region of the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, which is housed in Lynchburg, Virginia. And I'd like to take a little bit of time to kind of tell you where we're at and where we're going. And so hopefully give you some insight as to what's happening now. So let's talk with a food bank. So when you think of a food bank, the word food brings to mind different things for different people. And with people living with food insecurity, food can mean anything they can get that will temporarily satisfy their hunger. When resources are limited, people will focus on what they can afford to sustain them today. And they don't have the luxury of selecting food that's good for their health. So the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank has a different vision: nourishing food and good health for everyone, every day. Our mission is to improve food security through equitable access and to good nutrition and the resources that support health and well-being. What we are finding out is hunger is a quiet crisis in our community. It could be next door, 3 houses down. It could be someone we work with every day, our child's friends or our grandchildren's friends. Hunger affects 1 out of every 12 neighbors, whether they are a child or an adult. Hunger may be invisible, but it affects people in every zip code we have in the Blue Ridge area. And the effects are on full display. You look at the declining physical and mental health and the lagging economic productivity, you start seeing that. The food bank and our 400 plus partners work together to help with this crisis. And we believe that together we set a place at the table for everyone. The food bank's southern region of our network distributed more than 6.4 million pounds of food last year, and to more than 28,000 people. And that was across 5 counties and the city of Lynchburg. And that's enough for about 5.3 million meals. And about 30% of that was fresh produce. So there are still many more in the region who need food assistance. And the economy's inflation has changed really the landscape of many first-time guests that we have coming. They thought that they would never visit a food pantry or a food bank for any kind of assistance. So in this case, what are we doing to address the crisis? So not only are we partnering with established food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters, but we're also creating partnerships with non-traditional organizations to serve those who we have never reached before. So we have established partnerships with local schools and colleges by using the Good Food School Market. We also partner with clinics now, like the UVA Dialysis Center or the Free Clinic here in Lynchburg. And through that, our Food Pharmacies Initiative. And that's where the dietitians at these locations actually order the food that actually fits with their clients' dietary needs. And then therefore we're reaching patients who have never had the opportunity to go out and visit a food pantry. Usually in the dialysis center, we've learned that, you're in there for 4 hours or more. By the time you're done, you're wiped of all of your energy. You have no desire but to get home or get to bed or not really to go out and visit a food pantry. So this initiative has really given a great boost in those people who come and otherwise couldn't go to a pantry. So we have pop-up mobile distributions that focus on the underserved areas in the rural counties. And we bring a mobile food truck full of food and once a month to serve that area. So we also reach children and seniors. We got a few programs we do that through. We have the Kids Cafe, Summer Kids Pack, the Family Backpack Program, Summer Food Services, the Good Food School Markets, our senior box for our senior food boxes, and then we have a rural reach to our senior locations as well. And through what I have said before, you may have noticed that hunger and health are deeply connected. So people facing food insecurity are more likely to have chronic health conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes. So when people have access to enough nutritious food, that one, they can select, two, they are culturally familiar with, and three, meets their dietary need, then the doors open for them and lives improve. Thriving communities and well-being start with nourishing food. And by supporting the food bank, you help elevate the entire community today and tomorrow. So when you give food, you nourish health. A simple act with a profound impact. Thank you so much. And I wanted to give my apologies if I don't want it to seem rude, but I have got an opportunity to go visit my grandchildren, and I think I'm going to go ahead and take that opportunity. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
The ministries of our church are supported by the love, talents, and efforts of our many volunteers and staff, as well as the monetary support of our members and friends. If you found this church to be of value in your life, then I invite you to be generous, as the morning offering is freely given and gratefully received. And I didn't ask anybody, can we receive?
Recording in progress.
This Sunday, we continue a tradition of this congregation has had for at least 27 years, because I got records going back that far, in which members of this congregation speak about their individual journeys to becoming one of us. Today, Miles Dolihite, Stef Nicovich, and Matt Canning will share their stories. Miles?
Good morning. As he said, my name's Miles Dolihite, the first of the three cis white men who are going to share our stories today. So I'm just going to share how I grew up, my background, and how I came to the UU Church, specifically just how I came to the beliefs that I hold today. So I grew up in the Bible Belt in Florida, basically Alabama. I was Northwest Florida, so it counts as the Bible Belt. Grew up evangelical, non-denominational. The church I went to wasn't particularly culty or anything, but let me take this off. You know, pretty standard in my opinion. Just, yeah, almost like pretty much a Baptist church. So, yeah, we just, it's kind of like what you would expect from a evangelical Christian church. You know, short-term mission trips, purity culture. I was, there were some like beliefs that were like a little kooky, you know, looking back. You know, I believed in young earth creationism, but, you know, I didn't think that like evolution was real. I mean, you know, I believed in like the rapture, that we were all going to be taken up to, you know, to heaven one day, or, you know, randomly at some point. So there was some, you know, weird stuff in there looking back, but you know, overall I had a fairly good childhood. I was not very rebellious. I was pretty felt pretty grounded in my beliefs. So you know, and still looking back, I'm still happy with the way I was raised. I had great parents. You know, regardless of the disagreements we have now, you know, they were. I'm happy with the way they raised me. I wouldn't really change it. I was also homeschooled, so I was like pretty sheltered. That probably, you know, added to my security and my beliefs, because I didn't really know much else. So yeah, that about covers it. You know, I didn't feel like particularly traumatized or abused by the church or my parents or anything like that. You know, I went to Liberty University. That's how I ended up in Lynchburg in the first place. So, and most of the time there, you know, I was still very comfortable with Christianity and with my belief system. So I just felt that it was the right thing. It was what I always believed, and I felt very secure in that. So I guess my junior or senior year, in 2020, I was dating my now wife, Shannon, at the time. We were pretty close to getting engaged. That was, you know, on the books, and, you know, we were like a couple months from getting engaged, I'd say. So it was kind of a crucial time in our lives. And then she started kind of rethinking a lot, basically everything about Christianity. She came out as bi, and just started digging into a lot of aspects of Christian culture, like purity culture and stuff like that. Some really things that are really harmful, especially to women. And and to people of color and to people who aren't straight. There's a lot in the church that is not, as you guys probably already know, it's easy to be a straight white cis man in the church, but if you're deviate from that much, it gets quite a bit more difficult. So, I mean, she started digging into and deconstructing those things and talking to me about it, which was obviously really hard for me. At the time, I believed that if you're a Christian, you should marry a Christian. I mean, I'm I still kind of hold to that. Like I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have worked out very well if I was still a Christian and she was believed what she believes now. So, but I kind of it put me at a crossroads, because this is the person I'm closest to. Like I've never been closer to this person, to anyone than I have to this person. So like I really had to reckon with those differences. And I had to kind of do my own work of looking into those harmful aspects of Christian culture and also like the core doctrines of Christianity and what was wrong with it. And I while it was Shannon that really started it and was kind of the catalyst for my deconstruction, I did eventually become my own deconstruction journey, and so I don't want her to like feel bad, or I don't want it to look like she's the one who like dragged me to hell or anything like that. I was it is myself. I can take the responsibility for that. But really, I started to listen to some like deconstruction podcasts, like God is Gray, or like Heretic Happy Hour was a fun one. And another one that was actually really good was, surprisingly, the YouTubers Rhett and Link, if you've heard of them. They have a couple episodes of their podcast, Ear Biscuits, where they talk about their journey of, they used to be Christian missionaries and, just slowly like moved away from that. And I guess it was like 2019 or 2020, they like finally came out and like explained everything. So anyways, that was, hearing their story was like really moving to me at the time. Challenging too, to hear that kind of stuff. So, the podcasts were really helpful and very easy way to kind of move towards those different ways of thinking and to open my mind. Really, I think a younger me, or a younger me would not have responded this way to that kind of crossroads. I easily could have just said, "Oh, you're not a Christian anymore, Shannon. Okay, well, we can't be together." But even at Liberty, as closed-minded as that place is, I learned to be more open-minded than I did growing up. Not because of Liberty, just because it's college and I'm on my own and the friends I was around. I just, so that made me more receptive. It made me more willing to do my part in figuring out what I believed and, do my due diligence and, give some, I guess, to make sure that, I don't know, to just look into stuff that was being presented to me and take it seriously. So yeah, I listened to podcasts, I read some books. Unclobber was a really good one, about looking into the Bible and figuring out what it actually says about gay people and what, not just the English translations, but also like like what it actually originally said. And Raising Hell was another one that was about, again, looking into the Bible, looking into the original translations and figuring out what it said about the doctrine of hell, and how, at this point, they've let those books and all the podcasts and everything have led me to believe that that there's not really any biblical basis for hell, and there's not a strong biblical basis against being gay. And, not that it's like particularly supporting being gay, but, it's at least not that clear of a picture against it. That was when I still cared a lot about what the Bible said. Not so much anymore, but, that was an important step for me to figure out. I still cared a lot about the Bible at the time. So, yeah, but anyway, I guess slowly through all of that, through that, I guess it was probably about a year-long process, just deconstructing everything, my confidence in all these beliefs that I was raised to hold so tightly onto started to, it just started to erode, and I wasn't really, I didn't really feel that connected to those beliefs anymore. The problematic ones, at least. So, I don't know, that kind of brings me to now, I guess. So, I mean, currently I describe myself as a hopeful agnostic. That's a kind of a popular term these days, but I think it fits me pretty well. I'm still interested in the study of Christianity. It was a huge part of who I am is that I used to be a Christian, and so studying it is interesting, but instead I'm studying it from a more scholarly perspective rather than a theological perspective, and it's a lot more interesting that way. After joining this church, I'd say my beliefs haven't really changed. I've been here about a year and a half, I'd say, year and a half. My beliefs have kind of stayed the same since joining. I was already kind of aligned with what the church taught. The congregation. But I feel a little more grounded in those beliefs than I did when I first joined. And part of that is time. But also I think having a community that supports me has helped solidify those beliefs a lot more than like most of my life. I was told that if you don't have the Bible, if the Bible isn't the literal word of God, then what's your foundation? You have no foundation. Because it is a pretty strong foundation if you believe that the Bible is the literal word of God. That makes it pretty easy to just be like, oh, well, that's what it says, so that's what we're going to believe. And so it's, moving away from that was a little bit difficult. And, I was scared that I wouldn't have any, that I wouldn't feel grounded at all in my beliefs because I didn't have this authoritative source for everything. But it hasn't been that way, really. I think it probably helps. So like being in the church, with the congregation here has helped a lot. Just, I can feel grounded because I have, a community of people that are more or less like-minded and supportive of non-Christian or not strictly Christian beliefs, I guess. And I just feel supported in my spiritual journey, and that is, that's really helpful, and to me that provides enough of a strong enough foundation to base my belief system on. I guess when you when you believe in like hateful stuff like hell and kooky stuff like young earth creationism, you kind of need to believe that that stuff comes from God himself in order to feel that grounded in it. But when you believe something like all humans are inherently deserving of love, and when you base your beliefs off things that actually like make a lot of sense and are more intuitive, you don't really need the word of God to back that up. You can just it just kind of like feels right. And I guess my past self would say that that's not a reliable way to move through life, just trusting yourself. But I know now that that is that's just not correct. I can I don't need the authoritative literal word of God book to tell me that you can just love people. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm glad I'm here. It's been, thanks. Yeah, that's not really much of a closing, but that's all I got. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to say I feel really shallow. I don't mention God at all. How about now? Is that better? Okay. Yeah, Miles, if you want to kick the gain a little bit, that would be fine. Also, I felt pretty good about being a member of this congregation for 18 years until Gary stood up and said 51. So I feel I've got a little work to do. But anyway, what do I believe? That is the driving question, isn't it? When I was asked to discuss what I believe and why I'm a member of this congregation, I wasn't sure I was really qualified to do it. I had to think about it for a few days before I said yes. You see, I have a difficult relationship with the concept of belief. There are several definitions for this term, but the one I always seem to come back to is conviction in the absence of evidence. Now, this is a very negative approach to this concept, and it tends to reinforce the idea that a belief is just a made-up position that is more or less intractable. And I have a hard time with that kind of thinking. I envision members of the Flat Earth Society or anti-vaxxers stubbornly clinging to their beliefs, regardless of any evidence that may say otherwise. But there is another perspective, one that views belief as an extrapolated understanding of one's relationship with the world. In this manner, belief is the creative process of forming an understanding of one's experiences, not in spite of the evidence, but because of it. Now, I'm much more comfortable with this perspective, for I believe in creation. I think it is the most powerful thing anyone can do. The ability to make something where there was nothing before is, I believe, really the fundamental drive of our species. It gives us purpose. And if you have ever experienced someone who doesn't seem to have any joy or drive in life, and I see this quite often, I work with college students, it always seems to come down to not being able, for whatever reason, to create. With my students, this is almost always stems from them having had their creativity stamped out of them when they were younger. I personally blame No Child Left Behind for this. So helping them get their creativity back is a fairly large part of my job. Now, those of you who know me know that I like to work with my hands and that I have an interest in tools. Okay, maybe it's an obsession. I'm not sure really. My honey is probably is a better one to judge this because she pays the credit card bill. And I'm sure she would tell you that the words harbor freight occur with disturbing regularity.
At least they're cheap.
Oh, they used to be. Where was I about? Oh yeah, if I'm going to spend money, it is most likely on something with which I can use to make or fix something else. I define myself in this way, and my tools are an extension of that identity. In fact, the term for this is called extended self-concept. It is the idea where one imparts who they are into their possessions. Of course, when Russell Belk developed this concept, I'm sure he was envisioning things like a favorite jacket or blouse, not necessarily a favorite drill, hammer, or congregation. Now, I haven't really used my tools to make my living for a long time, at least not the kinds of tools one usually thinks about when they think about tools. I now make my living with different tools. Well, okay, pretty much one tool, the computer. Of course, being a tool guy, one computer won't cut it. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit how many I have and use. I actually own more computers than I do drills. At the moment, the count is around 10, give or take. Most I own, most I use regularly. I currently use 3 desktops, 2 laptops, a couple of iPads, and various servers of different purposes. And now I have an iPhone, a computer I didn't particularly want. In contrast, however, I only own 5 drills, 6 if you count the drill press. Now, these tools are very different in nature to the kinds I used to use, but I depend on them just as much as I did when I swung a hammer for a living. Which brings me to the question of just why do I have so many tools? The obvious answer is to make and fix things. I am not a tool collector per se. I have tools in order to use them, not just have them. But I would like to think that I use them to make necessary things. I'm not an artist who makes things for the purpose of aesthetic value. And while I appreciate artists for the beauty they bring, that was never my forte. No, I believe in making things that are useful. And by extrapolation, I believe in being useful. That is my purpose, and it manifests itself in what I do for a living and what I do for a hobby. It is what I try to do with my life. Tools are a means of achieving that, a gateway drug to utility, if you will. Which brings me back to why I am a member of this community. It gives me another avenue in which to be useful. This community allows me to be of use. As such, it is truly an extension of my self-concept. This is my community, my congregation, my church. A friend of mine once told me that if you find the perfect church, don't join, you'll ruin it. Now, our community is far from perfect. It is messy and in constant need of attention. Like all living things, it changes and morphs into new and interesting shapes. But we, as its members, get to decide just what that shape will be. That process takes all of us pushing and pulling and pinching and prodding and shaping and forming. And that is a really neat process. The act of creating, building, and maintaining a community is important work. It not only defines how we interact with each other, but how we interact with other people from other communities. It is the primary means that we have of making the world a better place, which, when you think about it, really is the purpose of not just this congregation, but each of us individually. The creative act of community building is hard, rewarding work, and that requires tools. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for allowing me to come up and speak a little bit. I realized sitting there is more about kind of my journey to this congregation compared to kind of what I believe is, I'm still kind of trying to figure that out exactly. But I thought that I would start with how I found this congregation, and I'd heard a story some time ago that fits with what was going on with me that sparked my first steps along this journey. Now, I was listening to a talk by Tara Brach, and she told this story, which she called a profound teaching story. And the setup is that Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are camping. They make their campfire, set up their tent, and eventually go to bed. Sherlock wakes in the night and wakes Watson and says, "Look up in the sky and tell me what you see." Watson replies, "I see millions of stars." Sherlock says, "What does that tell you?" Watson ponders this for a moment and says, "Astronomically speaking, it tells me there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Time-wise, it appears to be approximately 3:15. Theologically, it's evidence that the Lord is all-powerful and we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, it seems we will have a clear, beautiful day tomorrow. What does it tell you?" And Sherlock responds, "Watson, you idiot, someone has stolen our tent." I was hoping you had a good sense of humor. So why did this speak to me, and how did it spark my spiritual journey? It was, around 2019, and Donald Trump was president, and the COVID pandemic was in full swing. Racial justice and social justice issues were a daily news topic, and there seemed to be so much hate and division in the country and the world, and even in my own backyard. I felt isolated here in Lynchburg with my thoughts and views and values. Tara's talk was on finding happiness, something I really needed at that time. And the teaching in this story was that we all have distinct patterns of paying attention, habits where our attention goes, things we're looking for and scanning for. Some of us are paying attention to what we're wanting. Can I get more of this? Will this satisfy me? For others, it's what we're afraid of, what we're seeing around the corner. And for Watson, it was in some ways wanting information or wanting Holmes' approval, to be seen as competent and professional. Like for Holmes, it's this mistrust of humans and looking for what goes wrong. And I felt like I was right there with Sherlock Holmes, looking at what was wrong and caught up in all the negativity of that time. And it was just having a huge impact on me. So one of the ways I set out to change this was to find some spiritual refuge. I'd thought about finding a church over the years before and had half-heartedly looked, but had been discouraged with what I'd found. I have 2 sons who are now young adults. When they were young, my wife and I wanted to give them some sort of foundation in religion. We tried the Catholic Church, which is the faith that generations of my Canning family have worshiped in, and where I spent some of the early years of my life. We tried some of the other churches in town, both large and small, those with traditional services. Others were more contemporary community churches, some with electric guitars and drums and people standing and waving their arms in the air. But none of these were our path. And I admit that I was cynical while sitting in those churches. I couldn't say that Jesus was my one true Lord and Savior. I didn't even know if I believed in Jesus or to what degree. Nothing I heard aligned with science. Much of what I heard sounded divisive, and I seemed to hear the message that if others don't believe whatever a particular church believed, then those others were bad. I seemed tuned into the message of an angry and punitive God, so I stopped searching. Years went by. I tried to be a good person, just not a religious person, and I was fine with that. But then the pandemic happened, and the politics, and the world seemed crazy, and something within me kind of started to change. And I began to feel the need to find this spiritual refuge. So I began looking again. My kids were older, and they, along with my wife, were not interested or had already found their own paths. So this allowed me to open up and stretch the boundaries of my search. And with my kids, I had remained within what I knew was familiar. But on my own, I was able to investigate a whole new realm of spirituality, Eastern religions, Jewish faith, even some things that, like Miles, now sound kooky. For instance, shortly before becoming a Unitarian, I was a Frisbeeitarian. In this faith, we believe that after you die, your soul rises out of your body, but then gets stuck on a rooftop. So that was not where I wanted to spend eternity. And that's a George Carlin joke, by the way. My wife would probably murder me if she knew I said that or told that. But I knew exactly what I didn't believe or agree with in the Trinitarian faiths and felt strongly about that. But I struggled to put words to what I did believe. Then I found this UU congregation. In my sheltered religious life, I'd never even heard of Unitarian Universalism. But the seven principles, our covenant, and the sources of faith that the faith draws from put words to what I was thinking, but having trouble expressing. This seemed to be the perfect path for me, learning and working to live love in the world, promoting the inherent worth and dignity of every person, promoting peace, liberty, and justice, recognizing the interdependent web of life. I'd found a place I fit in and felt a sense of belonging. I've found wonderful people here. And I appreciate this faith, that within this faith I can be free and respected in my own search for truth and meaning. The search continues to evolve for me, and the services, the small group discussion, the readings, and other sources have allowed continued learning and discovery for me. I really value the small group and the Soul Matters material, because this has helped me to evolve my thinking and kind of figure out exactly what I do believe. So circling back to homes and who stole the tent, I'm slowly changing how I pay attention and am better able to look for the good. This congregation helps me put that into action, to serve, to help others, to be kind, and to have gratitude, so I don't miss the millions of stars in the sky. And if someone steals my tent, I will know how to deal with it. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is number 124, Be That God. As we begin to end our service, let's wave farewell to each other on Zoom and in person. As our service draws to a close, we extinguish the flame of our chalice as we say these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry on our hearts until we are together again. Our benediction today was written by Amy Mackenzie Quinn. When we say, "Go now in peace," we mean the peace that asks us to stop grasping after power over, and the peace that demands that we live fully, that we love with a fierce love, that we hope with a bold hope, and that we pray and sing and struggle. Remember this: within and all around us is our source. May we return to it, heed it, and honor it. Amen.